Ferrers had been dead for hours before anyone noticed. Her body was stone cold though the servants wasted a good deal of time trying to revive her. It was still entirely too early Friday morning when I was sent for. The citizens of King's Abbot loved discussing Rodger Ackroyd's affairs over the years. Most haven't lasted long. Rodger is difficult, some say vile. Lillian Ferrer was the most recent and enduring.
And I saw her Wednesday walking with Ralph Patton, Rodger's stepson. I was surprised to see Ralph, as he had left the village 6 months ago. Well, Lillian Ferrez. Estimated time of death, midnight, Thursday the 16th. Friday the 17th, September 1926. Cause of death, suicide. Medical entry submitted, Friday, September 26th.
James, is that you?
Who else would it be, Dick?
Well, it could have been a burglar.
Burglar would not be using the dictaphone.
Well, I don't know why not. You have everyone else reciting on it.
It is a good deal of fun. The fellows came over with old files and letters to read aloud to see how they sounded. Rodger Ackroyd was especially enchanted. Said he might buy one himself. I'm thinking of starting a journal with it.
Well, if you do, I suppose I'll be taking that up too.
I suppose.
Would you care for breakfast?
Just tea.
Oh, you had an early call.
King's Fat, Mrs. Ferrer.
I know.
How did you know?
Annie, our parlor maid.
An inveterate talker.
Well, yes.
And you, dear Caroline, are an inveterate listener.
Well, you can learn more by listening.
And you've started such an intelligence corps with servants and tradesmen.
Oh, that's how I know about Lillian Ferrez.
Died in his sleep.
I know.
I didn't know until I got there. Annie must be a clairvoyant.
No, the milkman told Annie and Annie told me.
How did the milkman know?
Oh, the Ferrez cook told him. What did she die of?
Oh, didn't the milkman tell Annie?
He didn't know.
I'm shocked. Well, I best tell you before the chimney sweep does. She died of an overdose of veronal powder.
I knew it.
Took it to sleep, took too much.
Did you prescribe it?
Well, not the overdose, but yes. A little is handy. Too much, deadly. Take it myself, I'll have trouble sleeping. For her, I was putting her doses in paper packets. She bought bottles from the chemist.
She took it on purpose.
Why did she do that?
Oh, you said she couldn't sleep. It was remorse.
For what?
Killing her husband. It took a year, but the guilt finally caught up with her.
He died of gastritis.
Arsenic poisoning. The symptoms are the same.
They are similar.
Oh, so you admit she could have poisoned her husband?
I admit no such thing. Biscuit.
No, thank you. But you do admit that she committed suicide.
I don't.
10 to 1 she left a suicide note.
She didn't leave a note of any kind. I checked to make sure.
Ha, you think it was suicide too?
No, one must consider the possibilities in such circumstances.
Oh, it can't be easy to have been married to Ashley Ferrer. He was a drunkard and he beat her too. Do you remember when he pushed her down the stairs?
She said she tripped.
Oh, do you believe that?
It doesn't matter what I believe.
Oh,
An inquest.
if you believe that it was suicide, you wouldn't have an inquest.
I'm sure you know all about the inquest before I schedule it. You know everything else.
I do. Did you know that Rodger Ackroyd's stepson Ralph is back in town?
I do. I saw Lillian Ferrer talk very earnestly with him only a couple days ago.
Oh, that adds another element to her suicide, doesn't it?
It'd be disastrous.
For Lillian.
Yes, for Lillian. I heard he was staying over at the Three Boars Inn. I went over this morning to welcome him, but he wasn't in his room. How did you know? Well, that's a silly question.
Yes, it is.
Anything happens in this village, you know.
Flora and Ralph are engaged. His niece and his stepson.
Oh, that is a bit strange.
Well, it seems it should be illegal.
They're not related by blood.
Well, Flora's mother is a pill.
Clara is unpleasant.
Rodger's brother dies, and right away Clara and her daughter move into Fernley Park without the by your leave.
I'm sure you have a choice. Clara is broke.
Well, of course she is. She went through Cecil's money to keep up her lifestyle, and now Rodger's supporting her.
Got the duty to his brother.
They've been having an affair. Oh, and that Russell woman doesn't like it one bit.
The housekeeper.
Yes, she and Rodger are having an affair too.
So Rodger was having affairs with Elizabeth Russell, Lillian Ferrer, and Clara Ackroyd. I admire his stamina.
Oh, good, naughty. Well, I only knew this morning about Ralph being in town, and then I saw Rodger in the village, and, well, he didn't know.
Who told you?
Our new neighbor, next door at the lodges. He'd seen Ralph at the Three Boars Inn and asked if I knew who he was.
Our neighbor, Thomas.
Yes, I was surprised, too.
Out in his garden all day. Not a word to anyone. Of course, you would get him to talk.
Well, he said he was a hairdresser.
Oh, yes, he must seem staffed. Is he?
I forgot to ask.
Did you find out his name?
Parrot.
Parrot.
Yes, like the talking bird.
And you know this because...
Well, I happened to see some things in his
Of
letterbox.
course you did. So then he was out in the garden.
Yes, and I was out in our garden watering the flowers, and he was shouting at his vegetables.
As one does.
And then a man came flying over the fence. It didn't miss me.
Oh, good. One never cares to be squashed by a squash.
Oh, and then he shouted again, and another man came sailing over the fence.
Missed again?
By miles. What on earth are you doing? I shouted back. You nearly hit me. He didn't, of course. And then he came around and was most apologetic and promised to bring over some vegetables.
Very nice, Mr. Parrot.
It is. I'm looking forward to the vegetables. I even saved the ones he threw over the fence.
Waste not, want not.
He speaks with an accent.
Oh, with a name like Parrot, perhaps South American.
I thought he sounded more French. I asked him if he was French, and he said no.
Ah.
And as for Rodger, I suspect he went right off to the Three Boars, but I know that he didn't find Ralph there.
That makes two of us. How did you know?
Well, I took the shortcut to the village through the woods, and I heard voices. One of them was Ralph Patton's.
I don't know why I bothered to subscribe to the newspaper.
Well, the other was a girl. I didn't mean to listen.
Of course.
But I couldn't help overhearing. The girl said something. I didn't catch it. And then Rodger answered loud. I mean, Ralph, not Rodger. Answered loud and angry. And he said that Rodger was fed up with him and that he didn't want him to alter his will because, well, he changed his ways and he wanted to pay off his debts.
And the girl?
Well, I couldn't see. Flora Ackroyd, maybe?
Ralph's been a gambler. Good for him.
He needs money. If I were Rodger, I wouldn't give it to him.
Then I'm sure Ralph is glad you're not Rodger.
And I am as well. I'm perfectly content to be your sister.
Then who wouldn't be?
So, will you be here for dinner tonight? I'm expecting a delivery of fresh vegetables.
No, my lady. I will be dining at Fernley Park.
Oh, well, Rodger invited you for dinner.
Did?
Oh, does he know about Mrs. Frere's?
I called him this morning. Thought you should know.
Oh, because of their affair.
I think you could call it an affair. She is a widow. He's a widower.
Well, his first wife died to get away from him.
Who could blame him?
How did he respond?
Rather well under the circumstances. Noticed her growing depression. Wants to discuss it, as well as related matters.
What kind of related matters?
I have no idea, but I'm sure you'll find out by lunch. I'll ask you then.
Oh, that will be our fresh vegetables and a chance for us to find out about Mr. Parrot.
End of notes. Lillian Ferez. Friday, September 26th, September 17th, 1926.
Here we are. This is my brother James.
And you?
James, this is Mr. Parrot.
My pleasure, monsieur.
I understand you've been throwing vegetables at my sister.
James!
I am, of course, without defense, monsieur. A man may retire from his occupation as I have done, only to discover that he is bored. So, I throw vegetables over walls, you understand? But the morrows, they defy me.
Well, what work did you do before you were retired?
The most interesting work there was in the world, the study of human nature.
Ah.
I've come to realize that I miss this interesting work. You understand?
Of course you miss it, since it was so interesting.
Thank you. I understand the balancing. Leisure on one hand, interesting work on the other. I've recently come into some money. I wanted to travel, but that money's gone, and I'm still here with my interesting work.
The crimes of habit. Sometimes we realize, grow frustrated, and perhaps hurl vegetables over the fences, eh?
You missed me, so no harm done.
Also, I had a friend who who is helpful in my work.
Oh, another hairdresser?
Excuse me.
Nothing. Go on.
I could, how you say, bounce a ball from him. Oh, it delighted me to surprise him with my insights into human nature. I miss this. More than I can tell you.
He died?
He moved away. Argentina?
South America?
I always wanted to travel to South America.
That is fate.
Legacy, I mentioned it. I was foolish. I risked it on speculation.
My friend did also. And he too was unsuccessful. You are much like my far-off friend. Well, I must get back to attending my garden.
Yes, and I should make a few calls and prepare for dinner tonight.
Madame? Monsieur?
I think he's French.
Well, let's hop to it. I'll freshen up.
Oh, I'll type up your notes.
Oh, that can wait. It's not like I'll be making any more visits on Mrs. Ferreira.
Oh, well, I'll go to market then and run some errands. We could use something more to have with our new vegetables.
Lights up.
Oops, sorry.
Back from dinner?
I am.
Oh, well, what are you doing?
Oh, I got bored, so I typed up my notes.
Oh, I was going to do that, but I couldn't find your dictaphone.
Saved you the time. Have fun shopping.
I did, and I got a lot of good gossip.
Do you remember that journal I said I'd start? I started it.
Oh, so ambitious.
Well, dinner at Fernley was a bit mysterious. I wanted to get my thoughts down.
I'm intrigued. Would you like to share them?
I walked over to Fernley, rang the front bell, and the butler let me in.
Parker.
Yes, Parker. Just as I walked in, Rodger's secretary
Sir Geoffrey Raymond.
walked by and asked if I was on a professional call.
A professional call.
I had my medical bag with me. I'm monitoring a few patients. I left the telephone number to Fernley Park just in case.
Ah.
As I passed by the library, I heard a sound. Sounded like a window slamming shut.
A window?
Bear with me. Miss Russell came running out. Almost
the-
collided with
The
me.
housekeeper.
She was short of breath, as if she had been running.
Well, it is a big house.
So, I went into the library, and there was a cabinet up against the far wall.
Well, that's new. Displaying what?
The old memorabilia, old silver, a shoe supposedly worn by King Charles I, African curios, and jade figures.
Oh, you love jade.
I lifted the lid for a closer look, slipped through my fingers, and when it fell, I realized that was the sound I heard.
Someone else had been admiring the curios.
Flora Ackroyd came in. We discussed the curios. She expressed her doubts as whether King Charles had worn this baby shoe. And she showed me the engagement ring. Said she was going to marry Ralph Patton. And then her mother walked in.
Oh, have I mentioned I don't like her?
You have. She said I should ask Rodger what he intends to leave Flora in his will.
See?
Fortunately, just then, Major Blunt walked in.
Oh, the big game hunter.
And we all went to the dining room and sat down for dinner.
Was it good?
It was. But then things got
Yes,
hard.
going too slowly. And after dinner, Rodger took you to his study and asked you to lock the window.
Things went on. Look, the conversation was
Oh,
so
and he said that he'd been involved with Mrs. Ferrars. I told you.
Such a gossip.
Oh, and that she had poisoned her husband. I was right.
Yes, you were right. She said that she was being blackmailed.
Oh, well, why did he tell you all this?
People tell me things.
Oh, you must have gone into the ministry.
Here are my notes back, Caroline.
Oh, no. And then she was being blackmailed. But by whom?
No, she didn't say. She said she'd tell him later.
And then she killed herself?
Yes.
Oh, that certainly puts the kibosh on telling him later.
Except,
What?
about then, Parker came in with post. There was in a distinctive blue letter addressed in Lillian for his hand. It's in there.
What? A suicide note. She wrote it in a letter. Oh.
Rodger dismissed Parker and began to read it aloud. Just go ahead.
My dear Rodger, oh, forgive me. Oh, the only choice I have. A person made my life hell on earth. I couldn't couldn't tell you the name before, but I can tell you now.
That's the gist of it. I couldn't copy it out.
Where's the rest? Who was the blackmailer?
He wouldn't tell me. He said he needed to be alone. He told me to leave and keep it a secret, and we need to do that. At least for now. You think you can keep a secret?
Why should I?
That's not our secret to give out.
I'll keep mum for now.
Might not be secret for long. As I left the room, there was Parker.
Oh, was he listening?
I told him Ackroyd didn't want to be disturbed, grabbed my coat, and the clock struck 9 as I was at the gate, where I nearly collided with a man.
Oh, what man?
It was dark. He had his hat pointed down and his collar turned up. He asked the way to firmly park. I told him. A few minutes later, I was home. It's 10 p.m. and I am exhausted.
I am too. It's been an exciting day all the way around.
I'm off to bed. We can solve our mysteries tomorrow.
Good night.
And lights up.
Parker, let me in, it's Shepard! Parker!
Dr. Shepard?
Where is he?
Who, sir?
Your master, Mr. Ackroyd!
Well,
Have you notified the police?
Police?
Didn't you telephone and tell me Mr. Ackroyd had been found murdered?
What? No, sir. This is a wicked joke, some of the
Where is he?
Still in the study, I fancy. The ladies have gone to sleep. And Major Blunt and Mr. Raynard are in the billiard room.
Ackroyd! Lock them in. Get a key.
Mr. Ackroyd is the only one with a key, sir. He must be asleep.
Well, then we must wake him up. Ackroyd! It's Shepard! Let me in! Parker, I'm going to break down this door.
Is that necessary, sir?
It is.
If you say so, sir.
Stay back then. Oh my God! Parker, call the police!
Blacked out. And lights up.
Well, this is a rum go. Stabbed in the neck. Man was unpleasant, but he hadn't a real enemy in the world. And who are you then?
Hector Blunt. Yes, dear.
Oh, Major Hector Blunt.
Yes.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't recognize you.
Quite all right.
So, how do you suppose this happened then?
Burglars.
Nothing's missing, Inspector Raglan. Nothing's even been disarranged.
It's murder.
No chance it was an accident.
He accidentally stabbed himself in the neck.
Suicide, maybe.
Suicide? No. No.
Bad business, then.
Could we cover him? It just seems so disrespectful.
Of course. Raymond, hand me that Afghan shawl, would you? There, better?
Yes, thank you, Inspector.
Had time to examine the body, Doctor?
I have.
All right, then. How long has he been dead?
At least half an hour. It must have been instantaneous. I should have stayed longer.
After a few words with Mr. Ackroyd, Dr. Shepard left early.
It had been a long and eventful day.
The rest of us were in the drawing room for after dinner conversation. That's when we heard Ackroyd speaking to someone.
Is he blind?
Parker, why'd you call Shepard?
Parker, why'd you call Dr. Shepard?
I didn't call Dr. Shepard.
Oh, that's right. Someone else.
Yes.
Imitating Parker. Did he sound like him? Was he good at it?
I can't say I noticed. I took it for granted.
Here.
I don't.
Oh, right. Evidence and so forth. Well, it's murder then. Body been moved at all?
No,
And the door was locked from the inside.
it was.
Dr. Shepard broke it down.
Window?
Closed and bolted earlier this evening by Mr. Ackroyd's request.
Well, it's open now. He went in this way, all right.
Stand aside, Raglan. Muddy footmarks, plain as pike staffs.
Rubber studs on the soles. One print pointing inward, another overlapping outward.
Anything out of place, Mr. Raymond?
Nothing seems to be missing. Mr. Ackroyd never kept anything of real value in this room, no.
It's clear to me what happened. Man saw an open window and climbed in. He saw Mr. Ackroyd. Maybe he was asleep or something. Man stabs him from behind. And then lost his nerve and made off.
This is odd.
What is it, Papa?
Today's post that I brought to Mr. Ackroyd, unopened, but one's missing a blue envelope. You remember it, don't you, Dr. Shepard?
Yes, it was an odd shape.
I don't see it anywhere.
A strange blue envelope that's missing? A clue! All right, let's fix the times a little more clearly. When was the last time Mr. Ackroyd was seen alive?
I left, let me see, 10 minutes to 9. Rodger asked not to be disturbed. I told Parker as I left.
Yes, just so. I glanced at the big clock in the entryway.
Mr. Ackroyd was certainly alive at 9:30. I heard him in here talking.
And who was he talking to?
I thought it was Dr. Shepard.
Dr. Shepard left earlier.
9.
I was home by 9:15.
I was home by 9:15. I received a telephone call at 10. I was still awake, but it woke my sister.
And I never saw Rodger after dinner.
Did you hear any of the words of that conversation?
I did. I was close to the study door. I remember the words exactly. The calls on my purse have been so frequent of late that I fear it is impossible for me to accede to your request. I thought I was being a bit nosy, so I retreated, and the rest of the conversation was too muffled to follow.
Fine.
You admitted no one by the front
And
door
you
this
admitted
evening?
no one by the front door this evening?
No, sir.
Then Parker himself must have admitted this person. And 9:30 would be the last time he is known to be alive.
If you'll excuse me, Inspector, Miss Flora saw him after.
Miss Flora?
Rodger's niece.
I'll fetch her.
Just tell her there's been a burglary.
It's 9:45. I was bringing a tray to Mr. Ackroyd, and Miss Flora had just come out of the room. Her hand was still on the doorknob, and told me her uncle did not wish to be disturbed.
I bet you've already been told that.
Yes, well, I forgot. I always bring the whiskey and soda about that time, so.
I didn't think any of the time, but I ran into a person as I was walking back home. He asked the way to Fernie Park,
A
perhaps.
clue? Can you describe him?
Dark hair, dark coat, and I couldn't see his hair. I couldn't see his face, really.
Anyone like that come to the door?
Nobody came to the door.
Inspector, I don't think it'd be a good wise to have Miss Ackroyd see. Ackroyd see.
Right. We'll adjourn to the drawing room. We'll keep this exactly as it was. Parker,
Sir?
shut and bolt that window.
Yes, sir.
Blackout. And lights up.
What's up that staircase?
Mr. Ackroyd's bedroom, sir, but there's no communication with the other parts of the house.
Oh, good evening, Miss Ackroyd. I'm Inspector Raglan.
What's happened? Has a crime been committed?
I'm afraid there's been attempted robbery. Please, sit down.
I don't understand. What's been stolen?
Parker here says you came out of your study at 9:45. Is that right?
Yes, I went in to say goodnight. He said I looked nice in the frock I was wearing, then said he was busy, so I left.
Anything else?
He said, tell Parker I don't want anything more and he's not to disturb me. What's been stolen?
Bad news. Your uncle's been murdered.
When?
Soon after you saw him, minutes perhaps.
Minutes! Then I might have... I can't...
Beautiful. Blackout. Lights up.
How's the young lady, Doctor?
Coming around nicely. Your mother's with her.
And Major Blunt?
He'll be down soon.
The servants say no one came in through the back door. Wish you had a better description of that stranger.
Look, Inspector, I may best make a clean breast of it. That missing blue envelope Parker and I just mentioned.
Yes,
It was a suicide letter from Rodger's paramour, Lillian Perez.
but she's dead.
Yes, she posted it. I was there when Rodger received it and read it aloud. She said she was being blackmailed and could no longer live with the guilt.
Blackmail? For what?
She poisoned her husband,
What?
and this blackmailer knew it.
Who was it?
He wouldn't say. He stopped reading, at least before he got the name aloud.
A motive. And if no one came into the house, it had to be someone in the house.
I can't imagine that.
It had to be Parker. Listen, he waits at the door. Mrs. Ackroyd happens upon him as he's trying to enter the study. So he waits till she's gone, goes in and stabs Ackroyd, locks the door from the inside, heads out the window, circles back around and into the house. By Jove, I've solved it.
If Ackroyd had finished the letter by the time I left, I can't see him sitting around another hour. He would have called Parker in, accused him, and then it would have been a final uproar. And frankly, I don't believe Parker could sit Rodger down and plunge a knife into his neck.
Good point. Good point. And Ackroyd would never stand for it. But what if he didn't have time to read the rest of the letter? We know that someone was with him at 9:15. If that visitor turned up after you and left just before Ackroyd's niece came in to say goodnight, he wouldn't have time to get back to the letter till, say, 10 o'clock.
Phone call.
Parker made that himself, and then lost his nerve in a panic. That must be it. If he made the call from the station, we'd be able to find out from the exchange. But let's keep it dark until we have all of the evidence. Evidence. Have that evidence somewhere. Thank you. For all appearances, we're concentrating on that mysterious stranger. His weapon ought to give us a clue. It's elaborate. It's a work of art. Can't be many of these about. It should be simple to trace back to the killer.
I believe it was given to Mr. Ackroyd by Major Blunt. Isn't that right, Major?
A gift. Tunisian.
Ah, so it was already in the house.
It was.
He was attacked from behind. He had never seen his killer coming.
Butlers can creep about as soft-footed as a cat. It may not be obvious to you, but it is to me. Ooh, fingerprints.
A great many of them.
Scabs!
It's getting patient. I have patience to see in the morning.
Can't believe it just turned morning.
Yes, it has.
I'll need you back tomorrow.
Today.
What?
Not tomorrow. Today.
Oh, yes, right. Right you are, yes.
Good morning, gentlemen.
You recognized it then from the first? Asked the inspector. Blunt nodded. You said nothing about it, said the inspector suspiciously. And lights up. Wrong moment, said Blunt. No sense in blurting out things. Can cause a lot of harm. Where was it usually kept? Asked Raglan. In the display case in the library with the other curios. I shall have to pack it carefully, Raglan said. It's an important piece of evidence.
Oh, you certainly got up early.
I did.
When did you get home?
After midnight, when I fetched the dictaphone from the workshop, all tightened and lubricated, I recorded the journal.
Ah, which I just typed up. Shocking.
You don't seem shocked.
Well, it took a long time to type up, so the shock wore off before I finished. Did you get any sleep?
About 5 hours.
Oh, not nearly enough.
Well, I made my rounds, and here I am.
Anything about Ackroyd's murder you didn't mention in your journal dictation?
Raglan suspects Parker.
Oh, fiddlesticks.
Well, Inspector Raglan is exactly Inspector Do.
And Parker is no cricket either. Ridiculous. Oh,
Early
I
for visitors?
wonder if I should make some tea.
Miss Ackroyd.
Dr. Shepherd, I've come to ask for your help.
Sit down, dear.
How can I assist you?
I want you to come to the Larches with me.
Next door.
Yes.
Oh, to see that funny little man with the vegetables?
You don't know who he is, do you?
I fancied he was a retired hairdresser.
He's Hercule Poirot, the famous detective.
Poirot! Belgian then, not French.
And not parrots.
He retired and came to live down here. Uncle knew who he was. They'd been friends for years, but he promised not to tell anyone because Monsieur Poirot wanted to live quietly in his retirement.
Excuse me.
He's got to take up the case.
Retirement means he's usually done with that thing.
You must help me persuade him.
Why me?
You found the body. I mean, you've been in this from the beginning, and you could attest to the medical details.
I don't think this is a good idea, Flora.
Ralph may have done some foolish things in the past, but he's not a murderer.
Ralph! When I was there last night, the police suspected Parker, not Ralph.
That weaselly inspector was at the Three Boars this morning asking questions about Ralph. They do suspect him. Monsieur Poirot must help us.
And he will help, won't you, Monsieur Poirot?
But I am retired, mademoiselle. The police will find the truth, will they not?
They've stopped looking for the truth. Please, Monsieur Poirot, it's a question of money.
It is not that money is not of a concern, but it is not an issue here. Now, understand, mademoiselle, if I do this, I shall go through with it till the end. Like the good dog, he does not leave the scent. You may wish you had left this to the local police.
I want the truth.
Then I accept, and hope you do not regret receiving the truth. We must act quickly if I am to take action. So, mademoiselle, you will remain here for the moment?
But I...
Do you wish my help, mademoiselle, or no?
Very well. I shall do as you say.
The police are still at the scene of the crime.
They are?
Then you, monsieur le doctor, and I shall begin our investigation. The house, it sits on a larger property, correct?
Yes, Fernley Park is a respectable stand of trees. A former Dutch garden with a big-sized pond and a summer house.
Good. Then we shall take a la petite promenade through the garden, visit the summer house, and then join the others at the scene of the crime. Quickly, monsieur le doctor, before the murderous trail is frozen. The game has feet.
And blackout. And lights up. And lights up.
Inspector Raglan.
Oh, morning, Shepard. About time you showed up. Yeah, who's this? Look here, we're investigating a crime. We can't have anyone just tootling in.
No, he's with me. This is Hercule Poirot, the famous detective.
Poirot? We don't want this investigation hampered by theatrics, Shepard. We can't have him advertising any involvement in this. It always makes the police look foolish.
Above all this, monsieur l'inspector, I have a horror for publicity. I have retired from the world, and I never intended to take up another case.
Is that so?
So I must beg that if I am able to contribute to the solution of this mystery, my name must not be mentioned.
Oh, well, that's a different thing. I have heard of your remarkable successes.
Oh, merci. But most of my successes have been with the aid of the police, whom I respect immensely.
Immensely? Well,
If you will permit me to help in whatever way I can, I shall be honored.
well, I suppose we should bring you wise to the latest developments.
I would be grateful.
You noticed we've removed the body.
I did notice.
Everything else is exactly the same as it was last night.
You have a suspect, I am told?
It's not so much I have a suspect, only someone I suspect.
You suspect the butler.
I suspect the butler as a suspect, because he acts suspiciously.
Servants are always suspicious. It's their nature.
Indeed, they look. I never trusted them.
Fingerprints?
Dr. Shepard's and mine so far.
The inspector passed the weapon around.
And what are those of Ralph Patton?
We'll take his as soon as we lay hands on him.
You can't find him.
Well, he was seen in the neighborhood last night around 9:30, but he quickly disappeared. We do have evidence that he's having financial difficulties. I brought some shoes along from the inn to compare with the footmarks on the windowsill.
Line.
Monsieur le Docteur discovered the body, I am told.
Monsieur le Doctor discovered the body, I am told.
Yes, and Parker Butler.
Might we show in Parker?
Oh, easily done.
The body was discovered where?
Oh, the chair there.
And after you left the first time, the blue letter, it was where?
Mr. Ackroyd had left it on the little table.
And other than that, everything else is exactly in its place?
Yes, I think so.
Monsieur Inspector, would you be so extremely obliging as to sit down in this chair?
Certainly.
Thank you. And now, Monsieur le Doctor, can you show me the position of the dagger? Ah, but the hilt of the dagger would plainly be visible from the door. Both you and Parker could see it from here?
Oh, yes.
And the electric light was on?
Yes.
And there were shoe prints on the windowsill?
The footmarks with studs on the windowsill there. Sorry.
And Parker and a line.
The studs on the footprints. Go ahead, line.
The rubber studs are the same patterns of those of patent shoes.
The rubber studs have the same pattern as those of patent shoes.
But more worn down than the shoe marks would indicate. Surely there are many people who wear shoes with rubber studs.
Yes, of course, but I wouldn't have mentioned it if it wasn't for everything else. Oh, the footmarks with the studs, they're also on the boggy ground along the path outside the window.
Very foolish of Ralph Baton to leave so much evidence. Did you notice also the woman's footprint in the wet ground?
Woman's foot? Yes, of course I did, of course.
And those of other men as well. It is very much a very clear marked path, eh?
Fine.
Spurrow. There was a fire in the grate, I see.
Thank you. There was a fire in the grate, I see. When you broke down the door, what was the state of the fire?
I didn't notice.
Of course, to each his own knowledge. You could give me details of the patient's appearance. Nothing would escape you. And the secretary that you mentioned to me, Mr.
Raymond.
Mr. Raymond, could tell me of business papers. But to know of the fire, I must ask the person whose business it was. This is why I have summoned Parker. He should be present now.
The bell rang.
This gentleman is Monsieur Hercule Poirot.
The famous detective. Oh.
Monsieur Parker, when you and Dr. Shepherd first came into the room, what was the state of the fire?
It had burned very low, sir. It was almost out.
Ah. And look around, my good Parker. Is everything else in the room is the room was as it was then?
The curtains were drawn, sir, and the electric light was on.
Ah, good.
Oh, and that chair was drawn out a little more.
Well, that's a curious. But who would want to sit in a chair in such a position? Eh? Show me. It's incorrect. Who would want to sit in a chair in such a position? Line.
Now, who pushed it back into
Now,
place?
who puts
I
it back
wonder?
into place, I wonder? You?
Oh, no, sir.
Are you, Doctor?
No?
Marshal Reglon?
Sir,
Did you move the chair?
I did not. Crime scene.
It was back in place when I arrived at the police, sir. I am sure of that.
Curious. And what of the little table?
I don't remember where it was.
Also curious. May I?
Have you found something?
Perhaps not. It is always good to find all of the pieces, to see which fit the puzzle, and which Do not.
Agent Hunter Raymond, but here also. Any one of us, I suppose, may have pushed the chair back to check the window.
It's not important.
Of course it's not important. That is why it is so interesting. Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Do you think Parker's telling the truth?
About the chair? Yes. Otherwise, I do not know. You will find, good doctor, that in cases such as this, they all resemble each other in one way. Everyone has something to hide.
Do I have something to hide?
Have you told me everything? Do not fret. I shall not press. I shall learn everything in good time.
Well, I don't know what I can tell you that can make any difference, but I am interested in your methods.
I have compared you to my old friend Hastings. He played such a role.
Your Watson.
Yes, very good. Watson.
Inspector Raglan, telephone for you.
Oh, yes, thank you. Muddle along the best you can without me. Back soon.
The fire, what was so important about that?
Elementary, Dr. Watson. You leave Mr. Ackroyd at 10 minutes to 9. Is that not so?
Yes, exactly.
And the window at that moment was closed and bolted, and the door unlocked.
Yes.
But at 9:45, when the body was discovered, the door was locked, and the window was open. Who opened it? I
What?
wonder.
It had to be Rodger.
Why? The room was too hot, but the fire was almost out, and there was a sharp drop in temperature that night. No, that could not be the reason. Yeah, he must have admitted someone through the window, and if that is the case, it must have been someone he knew.
How could you make it sound so simple?
Everything is simple if you arrange the facts methodically. And now, we are concerned with the person who was with him at 9:30. Seems it would be the person who was admitted through the window. And since we know that Miss Flora saw Mr. Ackroyd alive later, then we cannot approach the solution until we know who this visitor was.
Makes sense.
Line.
And so it is likely that the
And
window...
so it is likely that the person who came through the window. And so it is likely that the window was left open upon the person's departure, and that afforded the murderer an entrance. Or it could have been the same person who returned.
Your telephone call's been traced.
Did it come from here?
No. It came from a public call office down at King Abbott Station.
Also, the express train stop there. That whole place is almost nearly in a bustle.
There are 4 public telephone boxes. That time at night, 3 trains nearly come in on top of each other to make the connection with the express, which comes in at 10:19 and leaves for Liverpool at 10:23.
A person making a telephone call isn't likely to be noticed.
There's still no reason to it.
Now be sure there is a reason.
What reason?
When we know that, we shall know everything. Unlock the door, open the window, a chair that moves by itself. These are things that Hercule Poirot does not yet understand. But he will.
The doctor here says that Ackroyd was dead at 9:45.
Oh, or longer.
Let's see, that gives us an hour and a quarter in which well actually 45 minutes in which the crime was committed. I've noted down here where everyone was during that time. Let's see. Major Blunt in billiard room with Mr. Raymond. Mr. Raymond in billiard room, see above. Mrs. Ackroyd watching billiard game, see above for witnesses Blunt and Raymond.
May I?
Well, sir.
Mrs. Ackroyd, the cook, the housemaid. This is a very complete list.
They're all accounted for, except Parker. Something fishy about Parker.
Servants are always fishy.
Very detailed.
That's how I work. Method first. That's what I always say. Method first.
That too is my watchword. Method, order, and the little grey cells.
Prison.
No, the little grey cells of the brain.
Oh, well, yeah, we all use them.
To a greater or lesser degree. But I assure you, Mr. Parker did not do the murder. This I do assure you.
My sister agrees, and she's usually right.
It says here that a neighbor saw Ralph Patton enter the gate and head towards the house at exactly 25 minutes past 9.
Well,
It all fits. At exactly 25 minutes past 9, Patton is seen passing the lodge. At 9:30, Ackroyd overhears someone asking for money and Mr. Ackroyd refusing. Patton leaves the same way he came in, through the window. He walks along the terrace, his rage building. He sees through the window that the library is empty, so he steals in, takes a dagger from the display case, returns to the study where Mr. Ackroyd is sitting at his desk. By Jove, I solved it!
But why the call? How does that serve you?
Murderers do funny things. You'd know that if you were on the police force.
I have some familiarity with the murderers.
seriously, Raglan.
Before we came here, the doctor and I made an investigation of the grounds of Fernley Park. In the summer house, we discovered two things. First, this.
A goose quill?
Exactly.
There was a goose involved?
And we found this stuck to a chair.
This isn't evidence, it's just a bit of cloth.
Let us always be specific, my friend. A scrap of very starched cambric. What does that tell us?
Oh, a fragment from, somebody's handkerchief?
A good laundry does not starch handkerchiefs. If you will be so kind.
Oh, you can't have these back now, they're evidence.
But you yourself said that they were not. So, if you will be so kind. Merci. Let us take another walk through the garden to clear our hands. Come, Watson.
Watson? I thought his name was Shepherd.
Blackout. And lights up.
Oh, there you are, Flora. Mr. Raymond has a question for us.
We know the details of Mr. Ackroyd's will, but until everything's settled and debts are paid.
Debts? Surely Rodger
No,
wasn't.
that is minor. But I need to know that you both have all that you need for the present. If not, I will talk with Mr. Hammond and arrange whatever you require.
Oh, well, yes, of course. I would need.
It will only be a few days, I'm sure, Mother. We'll be fine.
Well, if I may, Mr. Ackroyd cashed a cheque of £100 yesterday for expenses. It hasn't been used yet.
And where is this?
He takes it out of the safe early on, then keeps it in his bedroom bureau until it's time to disperse it.
I assume your bureau's been locked.
No.
With so much working class around, I never heard of such a thing.
Mr. Ackroyd had perfect faith in the honesty of the staff.
Oh, yes, of course.
He kept his bedroom locked, had the key with him at all times.
Well, to make sure the money's still there. Can't rule out burglary, you know.
The housekeeper has a maid. The housekeeper has a key.
Oh, that Russell woman.
Yes.
Well, there again, what's the sense in having a locked door if ever... Where might I find the housekeeper?
She should be back shortly. The servants' quarters.
I know where they are. I'm a policeman. I've been all over this house. Policing.
Dr. Shepherd will be joining us for lunch. And.
Oh, this is Monsieur Perot, Mrs. Ackroyd, the famous detective.
Oh, yes, of course, of course. He's to find Ralph, is he not?
I've hired him to find out who killed Uncle.
You hired him? Oh, my dear, please, my poor nerves. I am a wreck this morning. positive wreck. It surely was an accident of some kind. Rodger loved handling all those curios. His hand must have slipped.
Come, Mother, lunch is nearly ready. Gentlemen, we'll see you at the table soon.
I had no idea you were living among us incognito, Monsieur Poirot. It would be a privilege to watch you work.
Mr. Raymond, if you'll be so kind, what can you tell me of Ralph Patton?
I know what you're thinking, but you don't know Ralph Patton. He could never have done this.
He has considerable debt.
Yes, but
He needed money.
a chronic condition, I'm afraid. Money always passes through his fingers like water. He was always applying to his stepfather.
And has he done so of late?
Not lately, no.
Mr. Ackroyd, Mr. Raymond, what do you know of Mr. Ackroyd's will?
I am familiar with it. His solicitor shared details with me.
And Mademoiselle Flora is mentioned, is she not?
She is.
And since Mademoiselle brought me to this, you will not object to sharing the details of the will?
Not at all. I will be announcing them at lunch. £1,000 to the head housekeeper, Miss Russell. £50 to the cook, Emma Cooper. £500 to the secretary, Mr. Geoffrey Raymond. Oh, that would be me. Then various hospitals and
I am not concerned with the charitable bequests.
understood. The income of £10,000 worth of shares to be paid to Mrs. Cecil Ackroyd during her lifetime. Miss Flora Ackroyd inherits £20,000 outright. The rest, including this property and shares in Ackroyd and Son, to his adopted son, Ralph Hassan.
Mon Rodger Ackroyd possessed a large fortune.
Yes, Ralph Hassan will be able to pay his debts.
Mr. Raymond, are you coming?
I believe they're waiting for us.
And black out. Lights up!
Oh, Mr. Raymond,
Oh, Mrs. Ackroyd.
you know, I can't help feeling a little hurt.
About what?
Rodger's lack of confidence in me. That £20,000 that went to Flora should have gone to me. He should have known I would safeguard the interests of my own child. I am Flora's mother. Rodger has always been mean about money matters. And then to leave £1,000 to that Russell woman. Well, she was certainly doing her best to marry Rodger, but I put a stop to that. She's always hated me for some reason.
I can't imagine why. Will they be having an inquest here, Mr. Raymond?
The inquest? Surely there needn't be an inquest. It was an accident.
He was murdered, Mrs. Ackroyd.
Oh, well, I have to answer questions.
I don't think so. I can give formal evidence of identification. And Dr. Shepherd was the first to discover Mr. Ackroyd's body.
We won't be able to answer any questions.
You said Mr. Ackroyd had £100 in cash.
That's right.
There's only £60 here.
Impossible. 10, 40, 50, 60. I don't understand.
You're sure he hadn't paid somebody already?
Positive.
It is simple. Either he paid out the £30 or it has been stolen.
Which of the servants would have been in the bedroom yesterday evening?
Only the housemaid, Ursula Bourne,
Is she here?
in the library.
We passed by on the way in from lunch.
I'll need to see her.
I'll go.
Tell us of Ursula Bourne.
She's leaving. She gave notice yesterday.
She had references when you hired her?
She had a very good reference from Mrs. Richard Folliot at Marley Grange.
And why is she leaving?
Mr. Ackroyd found fault with her yesterday afternoon. It was her duty to do his study, and she disarranged some of the papers on his desk. He was very annoyed about it, and she gave notice. At least that's how it was presented to me.
Miss Russell.
Yes, come in, Ursula.
If you're finished with us,
Yes, you may both go. Thank you very much. You are Ursula Bourne.
Yes, sir.
I understand you're leaving.
Yes, sir.
And why is that?
I moved some papers on Mr. Ackroyd's desk. He was very angry about it. I said I'd better leave, and he said I should go as soon as possible.
And that was yesterday morning, was it not?
Yes.
And how long did this conversation last?
I don't know, perhaps half an hour. Excuse me, is there any news of Ralph Patton?
None.
You can go, my girl.
When was the murder done?
They tell us sometime between 9:45 and the hour.
Could it have been before that?
No, I'm afraid not.
Thank you, mademoiselle. We are finished here, doctor.
You were in Mr. Ackroyd's bedroom last night?
Yes, sir, to turn down the bed.
Well, there's a large sum of money that seems to be missing from Mr. Ackroyd's room.
Are you accusing me?
Don't get snippy with me, my girl. I'm a policeman.
You can search my things if you like. I won't stand for this.
I didn't excuse. That'll do. You may go now.
And blackout. And lights up.
Oh, well, hello there. Where have you been?
Took a very short trip to Marley Grange.
Well, you were at least home long enough to make a recording.
Yes, and then I went to see some patients.
Monsieur Perrault dropped by.
Oh, for me.
No, for me specifically. We talked about some of his cases. It was very interesting.
Did you talk about the murder?
Well, naturally, James. I set him straight on several points.
I can only imagine.
He said I was a born detective, so I'm going to help him with the case. He talked about the little grey cells of the brain. His own, he said, were first quality.
Well, modesty is not his middle name.
He said that it was very important that Ralph should be found and that his disappearance would look bad at the inquest. Oh, and he wants me to find out something.
What?
He wants to know if the boots that Ralph had with him at the hotel were brown or black. Detective work.
How do you plan to find out?
Oh, simple. Our maid Annie is friends with Clara, the maid at the Three Boars. I'm having Annie ask Clara, and Clara will tell Annie, and Annie will tell me. I will tell Monsieur Perrault.
Did you tell Perrault about what you overheard in the woods that day?
Of course.
You're putting that boy's head in a noose.
Oh, pish tosh. I'm sure that Ralph has a perfect alibi.
Why has he disappeared?
Oh, no, he was afraid he might get the girl in trouble.
Anything else?
Well, yes, he asked about the patients you had this morning.
How would you even know about that?
Well, I can see the surgery door from the window. Oh, there was this boy from the farm who had bad foot. And Dolly Grice, who stuck a needle right all the way through her finger. The American steward off the liner. George Evans and his ulcer. And lastly, Miss Russell.
She has a bad knee.
Oh, bad knee. Fiddlesticks.
I prescribed a painkiller, and that started a conversation about drugs.
Oh, pain, drugs for pain.
Yes, and lying.
And addiction.
And
that led to
addiction
literature.
led to literature. Cocaine to Sherlock Holmes. Holmes to Lord Something Winsey. Drugs, poison, and poison to Lady Audley.
Poison, strange topic for a housekeeper to a murder victim.
Rodger was stabbed, not poisoned.
Will there be mystery solved at the inquest tomorrow?
Doubtful. It will be a very boring inquest.
Blackout. Lights up.
That was a very boring inquest.
It was just a formality. We did not expect to learn anything.
Where the devil is Patton? I can't find anyone who saw him at the station last night, and I've got nothing from Liverpool.
You think he went to Liverpool?
Well, that telephone call came in just 3 minutes before the Liverpool Express left.
Makes sense then.
Unless the intention was to throw you off the scent.
You think?
I do not know, my friend. But I will tell you this. When we know the explanation of the telephone call, we shall know the explanation of the murder.
I say we've already found the explanation.
Monsieur Inspector, beware of the telecommand. The narrow street with no end to it.
You mean a blind alley?
Ah, yes, the alley that goes to nowhere.
I've taken the fingerprints of everyone in this household.
Have you taken the fingerprints of Rodger Ackroyd?
What?
The murderer may have worn gloves. And the unknown fingerprints are most likely those of the person who owned the dagger.
Well,
Or the murderer may have taken the dead hand of the victim and closed it around the hilt of the dagger. It is easy to verify. The body is still available?
well, it is, but
Oh, this could be the fellow I ran into that night.
To a possible.
well, these are all interesting theories, mind you, a bit fanciful. I'll look into what you said about Ackroyd's fingerprints, but don't be disappointed if nothing comes of it.
Stupid inspector. He wants the clues to follow his ideas. This is rare. How do you say?
Backward.
Yes. I prefer a front.
Forward.
Yes, we forward to follow the clues and find the truth.
I understand you stopped by to see Caroline Sunday afternoon.
Always we go to the expert.
Caroline is the expert on local gossip in any case.
I
True
always-
and untrue.
I always go to every source, bearing in mind that every source may be lying.
A rather suspicious attitude.
But sometimes unnecessary. And now, Dr. Shepard left the house at 10 minutes to 9. How do I know that?
Because I told you.
But your watch may be wrong, or you may be lying. But Parker also says it. So, we accept this statement as true. At 9 o'clock, you encounter a man, the romance of the mysterious stranger, just outside the gate. How do I know that is so?
Because I told you.
Yes, but he is also seen by a maid leaving work of the house of Mrs. Gannett, just down the street. He asked her also. So, he exists.
Of course he exists. I told you.
I also find that he had a drink at the Three Boars, and the barmaid said that he spoke with an American accent.
Oh, now that you mention that, he did have an American accent.
And you will remember this, that I picked up on the floor of the summer house.
The goose quill.
What does this tell us?
Inspector Ragged seems to know. Wait, I remember I read about that years ago. In North America, people who do drugs use a goose quill to snort it.
Precise, smart. And this is also a good indication that the
mysterious stranger likely came from the
the
States.
mysterious stranger likely came from the States.
But what drew your attention to the summer house?
It was the path of the stranger's look. Yes, it leads to the mansion, but it also leads to the summer house. Did someone from here go out to meet him? I hoped for a clue, and I found two: the goose quill and the scrape of starched cambric.
The clock, what about it?
Use your brain cells, my friend. The cambric should be obvious.
Not to me.
Kelder motion.
So this man went to the summer house to meet somebody.
What's the story of the housemaid? Does it really take a half hour to dismiss a servant? And was the story of the important papers a likely one?
You have to think about this logically. I scribbled down a few suggestions.
Excellent! You have a method. Let us hear them.
Point 1. Ackroyd was talking to someone at 9:30. Point 2. We know Ralph Patton must have come into the window. Point 3. Ackroyd would only have admitted someone he knew. Point 4. The person talking with Ackroyd at 9:30 was asking for money. Point 5. We know Ralph Patton was in a scrape. So the person speaking with Ackroyd at 9:30 was Ralph Patton. But we know Ackroyd was alive at 9:45. Therefore, it wasn't Ralph who killed him. But he must have left the window open and the murderer entered through it.
And the murderer was?
The American stranger.
But what of the chair that was pulled out from the wall?
The chair? You really think that's important?
Perhaps not. But what of the missing £40?
Ackroyd reconsidered and gave it to Ralph, and Ralph, realizing Ackroyd had been murdered, panicked and fled.
Motive?
He inherits a large fortune by his uncle's death.
But there are three motives, my friend. One, the blue envelope that was stolen. Now, motive and blackmail. Perhaps Rodger Patton was the one blackmailing Mrs. Farrar. Two, also Ralph Patton. He was in, how do you say it, scrape, and he feared that his uncle would find out. And three, there was the fortune that you mentioned.
The case does seem black against him.
No. Three motives are too many. I am inclined to believe that Ralph Patton is innocent.
What?
But regardless, here come the others of the inquest.
Well, that was disappointing. I thought we were going to find out the identity of the murderer.
Not much the coroner could tell us. Nothing's been discovered.
Nothing but the obvious, I'm afraid.
Anything to add, Poirot?
I continue to investigate.
Well, I must say that it is a very fortunate thing, Flora, that your engagement was never announced formally. Mother, don't misunderstand. Not for a moment do I think that Ralph had anything to do with poor Rodger's death. But then, I have a trusting heart. Always have had, ever since I was a girl. But they say that there are people with a dark side that no one ever suspects.
Come, Mrs. Ackroyd.
What will happen to the estate if Ralph is found guilty?
I don't think any one of us is qualified to give an opinion on that regard, Mrs. Ackroyd.
Well, I see you're all against me, but I am thankful. Thankful that Flora's engagement was never announced formally.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Flora!
Mademoiselle.
Do you think that's wise under the circumstances?
Mr. Raymond, will you send the announcement to the Morning Post and the Times tomorrow, please?
If you're sure that's what you want, Miss Ackroyd.
You understand I must, don't you?
I do. It's the right thing to do. I'll stand by you through thick and thin.
Thank you, Major Blunt.
Mademoiselle, I much admire your loyalty, but I must ask you to postpone this announcement for at least 2 days more. You have put this case in my hands, and you must not hamper me now.
He's right, Flora.
I don't like it, but I will do as you say.
Good. Now, messieurs and madames, I mean to arrive at the truth, and each of you is hiding something. Do not deny it. You may think that it has no bearing on this case, but that I must decide. So I appeal to you. Tell me the truth. Will no one speak? C'est dommage. Oh.
Well, I have work to do.
No sense standing around, I suppose. Would you?
Yes, thank you. Are you coming, Mother?
I'll be along. Oh, Dr. Shepherd, may I have a word?
Of course, Mrs. Ackroyd.
Well, I am prostrated, absolutely prostrated with the shock of poor Rodger's death.
I could describe.
And that dreadful little Frenchman.
Belgian.
Same thing. Bullying us like he did, upsetting on top of Rodger's death.
I'm sorry.
I would never dream of concealing anything.
Of course not. So any remarks he made don't apply to you.
It's that girl, Ursula Bourne. She wants to make all the trouble she can before she leaves. They're all alike. Oh, I have suffered a martyrdom. A martyrdom. The things I've had to contend with. Dreadful bills. I hated showing them to Rodger. They were things a man just wouldn't understand. And he had to ask about everyone. Every single one. And of course they mount up. And they kept coming in.
It's a habit they have.
10,000 line.
£10,000 on notes.
10,000 pounds on their hand alone.
Promissory notes.
I assumed, of course, that Rodger would provide for me, but I thought it would be such a comfort if I could only glance over a copy of his will. Then one afternoon, while I had a chance to go into Rodger's study, I had some reason for going there. Nothing underhanded.
Of course not.
He left the keys, very careless of him, in the lock of the top drawer.
desk.
Oh, how dreadful it sounds!
Oh, forgive my unfortunate way of putting things.
It was all very innocent, and as I got to the bottom drawer, Ursula Bond came in.
Oh, bad timing.
I quickly shut the drawer. I said I was just straightening the papers. I didn't like the way she looked at me, and I know she told Rodger and made up some extraordinary story out of it. But you will explain to Monsieur Perot, won't you?
Oh, well,
And all those treasures in the library, in unlocked case. Careless!
you dropped the lid to this display case.
I panicked. I heard someone coming, running.
Running. Miss Russell, we nearly collided.
It surprised me.
She was out of breath.
But that's the thing, you see. She didn't go into the room, but she came out.
I don't understand.
She must have got into the room through the library window.
By the window? But why would she? Perhaps she didn't want anyone to know she went out to meet someone. I wonder if she just adventures. Wonder if she stashes her handkerchiefs.
Why would anyone stash a handkerchief?
Oh, no reason, I guess.
You will explain to Monsieur Perot.
Yes, of course.
And blackout. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, and give it a moment. Lights up. Nope, not enough time. Lights up.
Is this anything exciting?
Mm-hmm.
Anything exciting this morning while I was out seeing patients?
Oh, Jeffrey Raymond was here.
Oh, here to see me.
No, he wanted to see Monsieur Perot, but he was out. Mr. Raymond thought that he might be here or that you might know where he was.
I have no idea.
Well, I tried to make him wait, but he said he'd try later and went away down the village. A great pity, because Monsieur Perot came in practically the minute he left.
In here?
No, to his own house.
Mine.
And you know this
And
because...
you know this because...
The side window. Oh, there he is. Monsieur Perot!
You needn't be so loud.
Well, how else can I be heard? Monsieur Perot! Oh, he sees me. Come over. Oh, he heard.
Surely one of the village did.
He's coming over.
Oh, goody.
This way, when Mr. Raymond catches up, you can hear all about it.
You know, sister, I can exist comfortably without knowing anything about what my neighbors are doing and thinking.
Oh, stuff and nonsense, James. You want to know just as much as I do. You're just not as honest.
Ding dong.
Oh, there he is. I can tell him about the boots.
Good. Probably would have slipped my mind.
Oh, you're making fun, aren't you?
And the forfeit.
Ah, my Watson. Mrs. Caroline.
Yes, well. Watson is confused, Monsieur Holmes. Do you honestly believe, is this right? Am I in the right line here?
No.
No.
My Watson, anything to report since
Ah,
yesterday's inquest?
Ah, my Watson. Anything to report since last night's inquest?
Well, Miss Ackroyd snooped through Rodger's desk and is afraid Ursula Bourne told you.
Of course, she snooped. I would have been surprised if she had not. I am going back to Fernley to make arrangements for a little experiment tonight.
Ralph Patton's boots were black, not brown.
That is a pity.
Do you remember when I told you Miss Russell almost ran me over when I went to visit Rodger?
Yes.
Well, it seems she came into the house through the library window.
To keep anyone from inside the house from knowing that she had been outside. Perhaps she was having a secret meeting with someone.
But who?
Did Mr. Raymond find you?
Yes, he did. He took my little speech to heart, and he confessed that he had been in some debt. The £500 shall save him.
Oh, does that make him a good suspect?
He and Major Blunt were in the billiard room at the time Mr. Ackroyd was killed.
So that's that. Blunt and Raymond are each other's alibi. What is the secret Blunt is hiding?
There is a saying, is there not? that Englishmen conceal only one thing, their love.
I wonder if you had to jump to conclusions on one point.
What is that?
The blackmail and the murderer could be two different people.
Yes, very good. Now we know that the blue envelope was stolen, but it may not have been the murderer who took it. No, Parker, he is not the murderer, but he could be the scoundrel who is terrorizing Mrs. Farrar. Do you remember? At what point did the envelope disappear?
Afraid not. We were more concerned with Ackroyd.
How about the butler?
Parker, we always come back to the good Parker. Come, my Watson. We must go back to Fernley so I can set up for tomorrow's experiment. Mademoiselle Caroline, always a pleasure.
And blackout. And lights up.
Lou here. He's gone in the house.
What the devil?
He's overturned a silver case.
Go around. Cut him off. Stop! That's the warning shot. You had a gun? Of course I had a gun. And a good thing, too.